Answering more of your questions. That's right, folks. It's that time of week again where I went over to Instagram and I asked you to submit any questions you want to ask me. And I'll go through them and be as honest as I can, or be as enthusiastic as I can if they're if they're fucking dumb. But yeah, as I say, if you do ever want to ask questions yourself, I'm trying to do these kind of like every week now. So if you do want to follow the Instagram so you can get involved and ask your own questions, the Instagram account will be on the link below. Okay, in the description. Yeah, I suppose we'll go straight into it. Let's not fuck about, okay? Happy Monday, folks. Would you rather accidentally send nudes to your boss or to your parents? Um, I feel, well, both of those are catastrophic. In my case, personally, I can always get another job. I can always find another boss. I'm kind of stuck with the parents I have, and I quite like them. They're quite sound. Um, I'd rather not have to go out and find new parents. I feel like it's much easier to find a new job and find a new boss. Bear in mind, if they write you in a reference, it would be quite an awkward one. But if I had to choose in this hypothetical weird ass scenario, I would definitely pick sending it to my boss. And it's probably not even close. I wouldn't want my parents seeing my dick. Yeah, so my boss. What's the wildest thing you've ever tried in the bedroom? Try and get a good night's sleep properly, probably. Sleep. Trust me, I've tried. I've tried so many times. I'll go down, I'll try and go to bed at like 11, get a good night's sleep before next morning, and 4 a.m. hits. Here I am, still awake, scrolling through TikTok, scrolling through Instagram and stuff. So yeah, probably not the answer you're looking for, but the answer you're getting. Are you superstitious? I want to say not overly, but at the same time, I touch wood. Not in that way. I touch wood. um, to protect myself from the forces that be. I'm not a fan of umbrellas being up indoors. In fact, that was happening at the weekend actually, and I was combating by touching wood, touching wood, fucking left, right, and center. I'm not helping myself with this, Emma. But yeah. I also salute magpies. I don't fuck with magpies. Magpies are serious shit. Don't want to get in the wrong side of them. One for sorrow, two for joy. I have enough sorrow in my life without having to fucking deal with the backlash of the wrath of the magpies. So those are probably the only two. I'm trying to think of more. I think they are the only two. Touching wood and saluting magpies. So I'd say it's somewhat superstitious. And before I record a video, I always listen to kind of like the Rocky soundtrack to get me hyped up too. It's not really a superstition, it's more of a habit. But yeah, it gets me in the mood. Worst date story. Right, it's not so much a date story, right, but it is a a funny story. So I was living in Scotland at the time. It was my second year living there. My best mate Aaron and his girlfriend at the time, they were going up to his birthday party and they invited me, and they were telling me about this girl whose birthday it was or whatever. Really liked Irish boys apparently. I'm thinking, well, and right, let's go up and see what happens. So I go up and we're doing shots, having a few drinks. I don't even speak to this girl that they're talking about. I end up actually talking to her and really hitting it off and really getting on with um the girlfriend's best friend at the time. So yeah, one thing led to another with that. We were fucking dancing in the kitchen, spinning each other about. We're walking back to my best mate's, as I say, girlfriend at the time's house. And I kiss this girl and I fall in the bush. But then we come home, and yeah, that's when we're getting a wee bit into whatever. So it's more of a one night stand story, I suppose, a date story. But um, we get back, me and this girl go into the living room, and yeah, we're kissing, we're kind of getting in the middle, and she starts taking off my top, right? And obviously her lips are touching, so she takes the lips away as my top's coming over my head and goes, "So, do you have any siblings?" And I'm like, "I beg your pardon?" And she's like, "Have you got any siblings?" And I can't remember. I think I say something like, "Yeah, three sisters." Now shut the fuck up. Um, and yeah, we carry on with that. And yeah, funny story about that actually. Side note: the girlfriend and the best friend at the time got a hamster who at the time resided in this particular living room. So this her hamster had to watch me clapping it. No, I'm not gonna. I was gonna say clapping his mother's cheeks. That's really dirty. But seeing probably my bare ass, which is really unfortunate. Um, but yeah, uh, then both these girls ended up going to uni. And I remember my best mate's girlfriend at the time asked could we like look after the hamster in their absence. So we ended up being part, like winning a custody battle that we didn't even want to be a part of, and we ended up with this hamster. We ended up, again, I ended up really close with him. It took him a long time to trust me and come round to me and to eat from my hand, so to speak. Eat food, by the way, you sick-minded freaks. Uh, but yeah, um, we ended up just having this hamster then. Um, yeah, the relationship didn't work out in his end. I didn't really see this girl much after either, so it was really awkward when the hamster finally died. To have to message and be like, "Oh yeah, Peter's dead." Yeah, R.I.P. Peter, never forget. What were you like at school? At school, like secondary school, I was somewhere in between. I wasn't like nerdy enough to be a nerd, but I wasn't like cool enough to be like one of like the cool kids, like the you know the pricks, like the pricks. I wasn't a prick. I was I was kind of somewhere in between. It was kind of I want to say sound. I want to say I got on. We knew enough everybody. Everybody was comfortable enough to speak to me, whether you were from kind of like a I'd say nerdy because I feel like it's in a negative sense, but like whether you were academic or whether you were athletic or whether you didn't give a fuck about school at all, whatever kind of like field you end up playing in, I feel like everybody was comfortable in talking to me and it was quite sound. But again, somewhere in between, I would say. Where I went to uni is where I really like found myself. I went from not knowing a single soul in the entire country of Scotland to finishing my first year there. And hosting, well, co-hosting the media ball. It's kind of like a formal, like a end of year ball, handing out awards and stuff. I was asked to do that just because of my natural charisma and how sound I am. So yeah, that was a real like fucking coming of age time for me. Was uni. Was where I really came alive. You partaking in Lent? I am. Um, if you don't know this, like a lot of my mates will, I go off alcohol every year for Lent. I've been doing that ever since I've been drinking. I'll not say what age that started at, but yeah, every year I go off the alcohol. So I was out there on Friday night and I was on the Heineken Zeros, which are a godsend, and I still woke up with a really terrible hangover. It's weird. It's like a mental thing, but didn't touch a drop of beer, so to speak, alcoholic beer. But yeah, I'm off the drink. Um, and in terms of what like I'm taking on, just trying to like keep these videos going. Why not? Let's fucking do it. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Oh yes, the age-old question. Um, alive would be nice. Uh, hopefully not here. No disrespect to my family or anybody here. I want to in 5 years' time, hopefully, like grab my career by the balls, be living in maybe somewhere like America, like Canada, be it somewhere in England. I just want to be doing what I study to do at the minute and back here saving. But yeah, in 5 years' time, like I'd like to think I've pulled my trousers up and fucking went out and chased my dream ultimately. Do you have a favorite phrase slash quote? Yes, this is for everyone going through tough times. Remember, been there, done that, and that was said by Pitbull. On a serious note, I don't know. I'm gonna tie it into wrestling. Wrestling always gives me like again a bit of inspiration. There's some hard quotes on that, but I remember there's a quote from CM Punk's documentary, where he's talking like obviously he was wanting to leave and he wasn't happy in the company for a long time, but he basically said something along the lines of like I'm not gonna change the world sitting on my couch in Chicago. And I think about that every time like uh I'm like not arsed to record a video or whatever or do anything like that. Funnily enough, doing that changing the world in my fucking bedroom. I'm not claiming to do that, but it's more of like a sense of listen, these opportunities aren't gonna come to you. You're not like yourself isn't gonna be put out there. You need to put yourself out there. So yeah. Um, that's another one as well, if we're going to give like a proper serious one. Um, and then look all you want, but don't touch unless you're buying. It's a good lesson in business and in life. Who would be on your vlogging or podcasting Mount Rushmore? Right, is this just like in general, like the biggest, or is it like my personal preferences? Um, because obviously you've got the likes of your Joe Rogans and your Theo Vons, which are almost shoo-ins. Personally, for me, let's run through it. I'll try and give like Mount Rushmore. There's four. I'll try and give one of each for like kind of each of my interests, I suppose. Um, let's start vlogging. Let's go vlogging. For me, no one does the vlogging game like the Sidemen on YouTube. I think they're sensational. Obviously, they do have like professional cameramen and everything now as well, but I think the production of a budget, where they go on trips, where they go on holiday, like their holiday videos are they're like mini movies. The production level is top notch, and they're still there with their own wee cameras vlogging away and adding to it. The Sidemen, like I fucking love them. I think they're sensational, and they've changed the game um, in terms of vlogging and like documenting trips and stuff like that. I think they're sensational. Let's move on to some of my interests. Let's go Arsenal, for example. Right, I'm not gonna lie, it does wind me up at times, but I do enjoy Arsenal Fan TV, like some of the podcasts that they do. I remember it was the Forever Arsenal podcast, which they still do, but they've changed the lineup. Obviously, like Lee's still there, but the likes of Turkish and James, they've gone off and done. Is it the Loose Cannons podcast? It's called. I wouldn't tune in that as much as I would have tuned in when they were all on the Forever Arsenal podcast, but like I like hearing their perspective of it more. I think they're more level-headed Arsenal fans. So that would definitely be one from a personal standpoint. Let's go to like maybe a wrestling podcast. Let's like it's got to be Chris Van Vliet, and I think some of the guests he's got on there, some of the access he had, and some of the conversations he gets to have is unprecedented. Chris Van Vliet's probably the wrestling um, Mount Rushmore head for me. Now don't get me wrong, I can't believe I'm seriously considering Impulsive here with Logan Paul, but very good podcast as well. Um, I'm a fan of Santi's app. That wrestling is cool. Wrestling is I can't speak today. Wrestling is cool podcast that he does with Sancho is pretty good. And yeah, what do you want to talk about? The Cody Rhodes podcast that he does on his tour bus. Some of the wrestlers he gets on there, and some of the conversations that he's able to have with them because they're both in the industry. Him and whatever guest it might be, and they're able to have like conversations from backstage and like how things came about. It's a real good in-depth look. So yeah, what do you want to talk about? But in terms of the wrestling aspect, I'd probably say Chris Van Vliet is probably still the goat of that. And finally, maybe just one of my interests. Trying to think. I remember the one. My dad wrote a porno. I think that's finished now, but that was a very good podcast. If you had a chance to listen to it, basically this boy discovers that his dad wrote, literally wrote this fucking dirty novel, and he reads it chapter by chapter each episode to his friends who have never heard of this thing, and it's such a good laugh. Another one, Shag Married Annoyed, which is obviously a fun spin on the um, Shag Marry Avoid kind of thing, um, with Chris Ramsey and his wife Rosie. Oh, some of the like it's just a very funny podcast, and the whole structure of it, of like how they do it and how they like get the audience involved as well. I love audience involvement, and they're good at incorporating that into their show, and they're just really really funny. I don't do a lot of reading. I'm gonna cause a fucking avalanche here, but I know that's amazing for a writer to not read a lot. I'm getting a lot of work done in the house, by the way, so there's a bit to the ceiling on this, but I do have their book. As I say, as a writer, you'd imagine that I'd read a lot more, but this is a really funny read and a very interesting read. So yeah, Shag Married and shit. Hold on. So what did I say there? Right. I said the Loose Cannons podcast. I said Chris Van Vliet. I said Shag Married Annoyed, and there was another one. No, wait, what? Have I missed one? Fuck it, let's just go Joe Rogan. I forget, but yeah, those would be the ones. For me. Uh, sorry. Why does someone not know how to flush the toilet after they've done a shit? Sounds like a problem for your household. I don't know. If we're talking a full blown shit, it's a nightmare. But like, listen, this is gonna sound really bad. If you go in the toilet and there's like a skid mark on the side of it, this is where you God bless the fact you have a penis, even able to aim for that, and you using like just testing your accuracy to try and erase it. Oh, it's one of my favorite pastimes. That's a really weird thing to admit, but yeah, it is. Which kind of monster do they milk to get the energy drinks? You're asking the wrong man. Beats me. let's just end it there, shall we? um, Good question. I suppose I just not got an answer for you. But yeah, as always, this has been well. There's some good personal questions in there. I liked it, but as always, there's a few fucking weird ones. But yeah, I like that mix. I like that dynamic. But yeah, if you want to get involved in the next one, as I say, my Instagram's down below. As is my TikTok if you want to have a wee look at that as well. But pleasure speaking to you as always, folks. Take care. Love yous. Have a nice Monday. Bye.
Bye bye.